It's about 1:06 p.m. here on a beautiful Saturday. Welcome back to Snacks and Sonny. I'm your host, Sonny Carton, joined today with Snacks Harrison. How you doing, Snacks? Okay, so it seems as if we have a computer crash problem. It's all good. We'll get him back up and running in a second. If you're listening right now and watching, thank you so much for watching on the uSTADIUM network. We got a lot of good things coming today. We'll obviously wait for Snacks to get back to get into the real meat of the schedule and everything we're getting into talk about. But make sure you like the stream, subscribe to the channel, and once again, just appreciate everyone out there for tuning in. It's been a pretty interesting season so far, to be fair. Adding in the 17th game, I think is going to change how people look at the next second half of the season. But I think we've been pretty lucky so far. I mean, outside of injuries, which have really taken out some awesome guys like Derrick Henry, it's kept McCaffrey on the sideline for a while. We see Rodgers with COVID right now. So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. But we're going to definitely get into all of it. I want to wait for Snacks to get back because he's my right-hand man. He's my inside eyes on the game. So we'll wait for him to get back. But until then, anyone in the comments for now has any questions, this would be a good time to do that until he gets back. Oh, and there he is. And there he is. How you doing, Snacks?
I'm good, man. Sorry, having a little technical difficulties with this computer.
It's no problem.
Yeah, I just downloaded what do you call it? The new Vanguard, the Call of Duty. So I'm guessing that's what's having my PC do the dance right now.
Yep, slowing down. All right, well, let's go right into it. Probably the most talked about thing on every single show across the country for the past 24, 48 hours.
Aaron Rodgers?
Yes, sir.
That's tough.
So, from your standpoint, something came up in his interview with McAfee, which I thought was interesting, and it was specifically the idea where Rodgers goes, from the NFL standpoint, if you want to request a medical or religious exemption, they don't not allow you to do that, but all they're saying is you can't be included in the vaccinated players. And I think that's the one thing that Rodgers kind of missed the mark on, is that this whole time he had been asking to get an exemption because of what he thought he was immunized, which clearly shouldn't be the case.
Well, first and foremost, man, shout out to A-Rod, man, doing that show every Tuesday. That's tough. Win, lose, or draw. He's there. He's owning everything. He's a very thoughtful guy and a guy that I have a lot of respect for. So hearing his stance on the, I'm gonna just say the V word on the V word. I was kind of confused at first, but after listening to him, you hear everybody say the longer he talked, the more he stuck his foot in his mouth, the crazier he sounded, kind of like Kyrie did on the live. I don't know. Did you watch the Kyrie live? Yeah, the more Kyrie talked, the sillier he sounded. But A-Rod, he pretty much gave some valid reasons as to why, he's currently doing what he's doing. So I respect it, but at the same time, I do think his comments were a bit misleading.
Yeah, I agree, and I think his goal of the whole situation was it just seems like he's really about bodily autonomy, and I can't blame anyone who is going to go for that view, especially someone who's going to stick up for that view, because it's such an important thing. And as we can go into governmental control and all those random things, it is true that you should have the choice to do what you want with your own body. And I'm glad that Rodgers is sticking up for that, and I won't never criticize someone who wants to do that. So, moving on a little bit. It's about to be week 9 already.
Mid-season?
Mid-season.
No, this is where things get interesting in the NFL. This is where the defensive linemen kind of start to take over games. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start there then. Give me your defensive player of the year right now.
I'm gonna have to go Myles Garrett, man. Myles Garrett has been doing some great things this year. I think he's already at double-digit sacks. They're not having as much success team-wise, but he's having a pretty good year. And also, I would have to throw in Aaron Donald in there. Anytime Aaron Donald straps up his cleats, he's a threat to win Defensive Player of the Year. So whether he's making plays or not, he's creating things for other guys around him.
Exactly, and that last thing you said is so important, and I think that's what gave me Aaron Donald to the decoy, at least so far through the season, in that he reminds me of Steph Curry on the basketball floor a lot in the way that he doesn't necessarily have to be the one hitting the three or have to be the one getting the assist. everyone on the court is so focused on him that someone else might be the one making the play, but it was really because of Steph or Aaron Donald's impact. So I think it's like you say, I mean, he gets double teamed on every snap. So just because he's not the one getting the stacks doesn't mean he's not having Defensive Player of the Year impact.
Right.
Now, that being said,
was nice too. Costume was nice.
Nick just mentioned it, but I wouldn't blame you if you had Diggs halfway through the season based on the interception total. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the team is having success, so you can kind of, put those two together. It's, I don't know, man. I'm kind of impartial to like that safety position because he plays safety, right?
I think he lines up at cornerback, but
as corner,
they move him around the field. But he's corner for now, yeah.
Well, that safety cornerback, slot cornerback position, you would have to have Deion Sanders, that type of effect, in order for me to give you that. Like, he's great with the interceptions. I would just have to see, some of his other numbers and see exactly, is he a lockdown corner? Is he shut down, or is he just taking advantage of all the opportunities he's being given, which he should. So, but and they made a great point too. My boy Max Crosby, that's my boy. I told the NFL about Max when he got in. I told him he was going to be a problem. Once he got strong, and he's gotten stronger. But the scary thing is, he can get a whole lot stronger, and it's he's going to have a great career.
He's nice. He hits some really finesse moves. Like, he's one of the quicker guys out there, and I don't want to be blocking him. In terms of MVP, now this is where the conversation gets a little more interesting because there's not necessarily one main guy to go to. If it's up to me, I'm going to go with Brady. I think he's been dominant. I think for someone who is recognized as the GOAT, if he's having a season that's surpassing any of his other seasons to this point, how could you not say he's the guy that you're going to give MVP to?
Well, at the same time, too, the game is changing as well. So, I mean, he's had a lot of great seasons, but now more so than in the past is tailor-made for passers. And kudos to him for still being able to keep up with the times. But I get what you're saying, but I don't agree with that logic.
So who would you give MVP to?
I would give it to Tom Brady. Listen, I'm giving it to Tom. But Matthew Stafford deserves some votes in there too.
For sure.
I think Matthew can finish the season strong. He's he'll have a chance to win MVP. I think he is. He's having a real great season.
Yeah, and I think that's great for him because, I mean, for so long, we all watched him on Detroit, and we're like, imagine he had good players. Imagine this. Imagine he was with the coaching staff who knew how to set him up in the offense. Mm-hmm. In the first year he's done that, he's 7-1. And honestly, like you said, he'd probably be my second guy on that MVP list. But you just got to go to Brady.
He's the second guy, but 1A is Tom Brady, 1B is Aaron Rodgers.
Well, that's unspoken, yeah.
Yeah, especially after the performance he just put on, missing his receivers, when a lot of quarterbacks wouldn't have been able to still put up numbers. Like, we got to give Aaron Rodgers his flowers. Like, he's a guy.
Okay, so now here's a question that I'm interested in you answering, and it's hard to answer this question for the whole season because he's injured right now, but it would be impossible to not give Offensive Player of the Year to Derrick Henry. Do you agree? Based off of the first 8 weeks of the season?
Absolutely. If he was on that pace, if he stayed on the pace he was on, Derrick Henry would have won MVP.
Now, I get if you want to say Cooper Kupp because he's on pace to break Calvin's record for receiving yards and all that, but I think Derrick was just so dominant. And to me, there's a slight difference, like you said. The game today is built around passing, and as good as Cooper Kupp is, it's definitely built for him to get open more. Meanwhile, Derrick Henry, when they hand him the ball, every player on the field knows he's getting the ball, and he still puts up the numbers he does. So he's a little bit more incredible to me.
Yeah.
But because of his injury, I think coming down the stretch of the season, it'll either be Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. Derrick Henry would have won MVP if he stayed on the same pace that he was on, because he was at that point he'd have been the most important player to his team, minus a couple quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, Derrick Henry was the Tennessee Titans, even though they have Julio Jones and a couple other really great receivers. But Cooper Kupp comes to mind. That's first and foremost. Who else? Yeah, I would have to just go with Cooper Kupp right now. It's just hands down what he's doing is amazing.
So do we think Tennessee's going to hold on to the division? Right now they're at 6-2. You got the Colts at 4-5, and then the Jacksonville and Texans aren't catching them. So it's going to be between the Colts and the Titans to answer your question, Ryan. But I mean, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to close out the South. I get the Derrick Henry injury, but I think they're going to have like a plan just to win the games the same way that they have before. And missing Derrick Henry is going to really hurt, obviously. But I don't see the Colts overtaking them in that spot.
Can we get their schedule up on the screen? The schedule will tell you everything. The next, with this being mid-season, the next 4 or 5 games are probably going to be the most important games of the season for the Colts, as well as for the Titans due to the injury they just had. So the next 4 to 5 games will tell you everything you need to know about that division. If those are winnable for the Colts and they can, put on a performance like they did against, your Jets, our Jets, the first half, not the second half. I think they'll have a chance to come back and, crush it in their division.
All right, so we got an interesting schedule for both teams coming up. The Titans got the Rams this weekend, and then they have New Orleans, Houston, and New England. So I'd say that's 3 winnable games out of 4 for them. And then you go to Indianapolis.
Hold on, what 3 out of 4? Who?
New England, Houston, New Orleans, and the Rams.
New Orleans is going to be tough for them.
Yeah, but that's 3 winnable games.
It's again back to my point as well. I forgot to mention his name. Mac Jones should be mentioned in the offensive rookie of the year talk based on where he has that team now. His numbers aren't that great, but where his team is now, you got to give a kid some credit. So I think that New England game is going to be tough for him. New Orleans is going to be tough for him. And you said they have the Rams?
Yep.
You said 3 out of 4 winnable games. Tannehill's really going to have to play his butt off.
I agree with you there. He's not going to be able to rely on the run game 30 times a game.
No.
He's going to have to get it done. And speaking of Offensive Rookie of the Year, I don't disagree with you that Mac Jones should be up there in the conversation, but there's one guy running away with that award right now, and it's Jamar Chase. He's sprinting away with that. So unless he slows down, it's impossible not to give it to him. But otherwise, I agree with you. I mean, Mac's by far been the most solid out of the quarterbacks. And to the Patriots' credit, coming out of the draft, he was looked at as the most NFL-ready starter, and that's what he's been so far.
The most Patriot NFL-ready starter. Let's start there. That's very Patriot. There's a difference between being NFL-ready as a quarterback and being Patriot NFL-ready.
Explain what you mean by that.
Like, just the type of quarterback Mac Jones is. Like, New England wouldn't be able to have like a Justin Fields or a Zach Wilson, and do exactly what they want to do. I see they were kind of changing. That's why they brought Cam in, to kind of get that different dynamic to their offense. But Mac Jones is like the prototypical Patriots quarterback.
Yeah, I get what you're saying now, for sure. He's built to go into that system and succeed, and that's why they drafted him. So now, I've been meaning to ask you this for a few weeks, and it's obviously something close to you because you played with him, but Odell. Now, all the controversy surrounding Odell, listen, I know what kind of player he is. You know what kind of player he is. Most of the world knows. So he will find himself on a team. Where do you see him going?
Well, I think, again, we discredit the kind of person Odell is because we know what kind of player he is. Odell is a great person, a great individual. You can't – I would challenge any of his former teammates to find – I would challenge anybody to find any of their former teammates that had a real issue with Odell. Like, it's not the issue with Odell. Everybody has an issue with his celebrity and the type of celebrity he is. He's not just football famous. The guy is literally a rock star. And he's been a rock star, since he got into the NFL. It's grandmas and grandpas in Germany right now. You can show a picture of Odell and they'll know that's Odell, or show a picture of the hair and they'll tell you that's OBJ. You know what I mean? So he's a great teammate. He works hard. He practices his butt off. So, his celebrity kind of gets in his way sometimes. But I don't care what you do off the field as long as you're producing on the field. You're not being a distraction inside of the locker room, which is impossible to be a distraction inside of the locker room if you're a real professional. If you're there to do your damn job, mind your business, and do what they ask you to do, you don't worry about the next man. What the next man doing should not affect you in any way whatsoever. So, I think to answer your question, I think Baltimore, Rams, and Green Bay will be great places for him.
I agree. All three places with good
Mhm.
quarterbacks get the guy the ball. Hey, mom, love you too. No, but Odell, I mean, it's such a strange situation because when you hear these
Mhm.
reports about him like sitting alone in the locker room and not being engaged with the rest of the team, like, do you find truth in that? Do you find that hard to believe for a guy like Odell with such a personality? Like, what do you think could have been the cause of some of these issues?
I don't know. I mean, as far as sitting alone in the locker room, it's a lot of guys that do that, especially after a loss. Like, it's kind of hard to sit alone in the locker room because you're surrounded by other guys. So maybe after a game, he just sat there, or in between meetings. I don't know the content. I mean, the context of that situation, but it's depending on when it was. Like, a lot of guys just like to be private, like just sit there and be quiet, and and sit and talk and visit with themselves. So I don't see it. Even if he did it, I don't see the issue in that. Leave him alone. He's not bothering nobody.
And then in a situation like this, because for someone who was in the locker room, like, do you think? Because it seems like there had been chemistry issues for a little bit. Not to lie about it. Like Baker and Odell clearly have not been on the same page in their tenure in Cleveland. So,
Mhm.
but that being said, they just released Odell now. Do you think that there was one event particularly that happened that made them? They were like, all right, we got to release him now, or do you think it just boiled over so much and they were like, this can't be fixed. We gotta do something, and then they released him.
It had to be something that happened. I'm not speaking for him. I never even talked to him about the situation, but I'm guessing, the video that the truth in the video that his dad posted may have had something to do with it, which it shouldn't have. Because if that's the case, it's a lot of other players, moms and dads, who should have them released for the shit that they're doing and saying. Um, but I think it was just time, man, because there's no reason whatsoever that your number one wide receiver, which he was the number one wide receiver, no disrespect to Jarvis, because that's my dog, but he's your number one wide receiver. Why are you not designing plays for him? Why is he not number one in your game plan? Whether it's over routes, crossing routes, slants, something. Why is he not featured in your offense? Any other quarterback in the NFL would get their number one receiver, their best playmaker, of the ball, and they just were not doing that in Cleveland. It made no sense whatsoever. Have you seen the video? The video is pretty bad.
The video is horrible, and it's not just a video; it's every game.
Yeah,
And like you said, it's so much less of like if Odell was a wide receiver 3, and we're talking about a flex guy who hasn't gotten
right.
any looks all season but is promising, that's one thing. But like you said, we're talking about the wide receiver 1, the guy you call plays to get the ball in the open field, the guy you run a screen to because he hasn't touched it all game. Those types of things to get the guy involved, and they haven't been doing that, and that's what made Odell so successful in New York.
Right. And then you see what they did with Randall Cobb in Green Bay. You mean to tell me that Aaron Rodgers wouldn't do that and more? No disrespect to Randall. You don't mean to tell me Aaron Rodgers wouldn't do that and more with Odell?
With Odell, he
Come on,
100%.
man. I get it, the injuries. He may have, slowed down a little bit, but he still looks explosive. I don't know if you still watch his pre games or even in games, like he's moving. He still looks good. He just need an opportunity, and Baker just was not giving him that.
Yeah. Do you have one moment with Odell? Because you kind of played with him almost near the height of everything that was going on in New York. Is there one story from either practice or something that you remember from your time there with him?
Nah, not really. I just tell you, it was when I first got there. I was expecting to see, OBJ, this diva, because I played with some diva wide receivers, guys who didn't want to practice, guys who people in the building really didn't like. Um, but when I got there, he was practicing. He was running down the field blocking. He was chasing after guys for interceptions, and I'm like, okay, cool. This is just one day. No, it was like that every single day. The guy practiced his butt off every single day he could. Like, and that alone, like, he gained my respect for that. Like, just off me seeing that. Because again, I play with wide receivers who don't even want to practice.
Yeah, that frustrates me because I just don't understand. I mean, I do understand. Obviously, so many things have happened in Odell's career that makes the media target him in the way they do for obviously clicks and views and whatever else you want to mention. But it's just such a shame that a guy who legitimately was on pace to break Jerry Rice's records when he was just two seasons in the league is now at a point where we're talking about him in the way we are about him having to move on to another team and chemistry issues. It's just a shame for such a talented guy to go out in that way. And I think Snack's computer crashed here again. But Odell is such an interesting study, and I think once he retires, there'll be a really big look back into his career from everything that happened, starting with when he got drafted, to when he made the catch, obviously, to when he hit the field goal net and it hit him back in the face. There's so many things you can reference in the Odell trilogy, saga, whatever you want to call it, that I really do think there's going to be an interesting look back by the time he retires to see where things went wrong, how the media had an effect on his career, and just how the NFL and the media worked to change these guys' careers, because I'm 100% sure that outside influence has affected Odell's career. Everything that has happened to him throughout his pro career has not simply been his on-field play. And you see videos here, him just getting missed, him running open. It's just such a shame to see a guy, once again, that we talked about, literally on pace to break Jerry Rice's record, now struggling to even get receptions and targets. So moving on to the Jets quarterback situation. Now, I'm definitely going to wait for Snacks to computer to come back up here to ask him this question, because of the seriousness.
What you got, man? What question you got for me, man?
You good? I got you a question. Ready? Here's the question. Sir. Mike White has almost matched Zach Wilson's totals through six snaps almost? Like, if they're both healthy when they come back, how do you not give the start to Mike White?
Well, in the locker room, first and foremost, if you see the guys had success, you got to understand, number one, that Zach is your future. So we get that out of the way. All of the, the Mike White hype is cool. Some guys, the locker room will kind of be split on that. The older guys that want Mike White, the younger guys are like, okay, it's a business. We got to keep Zach out there. But for myself, if I was in that locker room, you got to roll with who's hot. I understand that your future is involved. This is going to be your quarterback of the future if you don't give up on him before he has opportunity to develop. But at the same time, we need to be trying to win games or be competitive, and I think Mike White is giving them a better chance at that right now.
I agree, and I also want to shout out Josh Johnson because he's not getting talked about
dog,
a lot.
Man, that's my dog.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, he's a good dude. We played together on quite a few teams.
Well, yeah, I want to shout him out because no one realizes his college coach was Jim Harbaugh at San Diego like 30 years ago. And he's still in the league and getting his real first chances. So I just wanted to give him a shout out because he was the one that played most of the snaps in that game. But yeah, no, I like you said. I mean, if you have a team like the Jets where you're having so much trouble to find success, and all of a sudden you make a quarterback change because of an injury, and you can feel the team is lighter, you can feel the team is just wants to go out and win more, it'd be hard to not ride that guy into the next week because it'd almost feel like you're shooting yourself in the foot if you don't.
Right. It seems like you just don't want to win games, and that's what some guys think, and that's how coaches lose locker rooms. And
now, I'm sure that this is a straightforward answer to this question, but I'm going to ask anyways. For these types of decisions where it's picking a guy who might have been playing well versus the guy who is coming back from an injury, do the players have any say in that, or is that strictly front office?
None whatsoever. You got your first round pick, your quarterback, he is playing. They don't care unless it's an injury. A young guy, they're getting him that experience. Nobody has any say. That's automatically understood that he's going in the game.
Do you think the Jets knew what Mike White was capable of when they had him on the roster this season before Zach went down?
No, I think they saw some glimpses of it, but I still don't think they expected, him to be doing what he's doing now. But kudos to the guys on the scouting side, for recognizing that and getting him over, because he was a pick. Was it the Cowboys?
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah. So kudos to them for finding him.
Yeah, no, I'll say the same thing. I mean, he literally hadn't played until those few snaps in the last game at the very end of the game when Zach went down. So exactly, to find a guy who had been drafted 3 years ago but hadn't played, I mean, that's a good thing to do. Like that is a sign of a winning franchise, making these little pickups that help you throughout the season.
I don't know. I think y'all reaching right now too. Y'all trying to hold on to anything positive right now, and Mike White is giving y'all that hope. So I get it, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves now.
You're right. I'm holding on. Like there's not much to hold on to. I'm grasping for straws. Like I have to. What else do you want me to root for?
Hey, I get it. Y'all looking for anything positive right now, and he's it. He's it. That's why it's so great to be in New York. If you just have a little bit of success and you do your job, they'll build you up, but they'll also tear you down quicker than they build you up. So you got to be careful.
Now, I texted you during the Jets game because I was pissed at the defense because, I mean, that's a game looking back. We could have
Yeah,
won that game, like
yeah.
legitimately won that game. Obviously, Colts go 4 starting drives in a row with a touchdown. You're not going to win like that. But what's the hardest part of trying to like stop just the bleeding in the middle of a game like that?
Well, it's the either the energy was lacking or guys just really didn't care. Because at that point, the defensive line weren't getting off blocks, which were forcing the linebackers to come downhill faster. And when they were coming downhill faster, they just look lost. You know what I mean? It's when your defensive line isn't getting off blocks, your linebackers, the linebackers coach tell them to come down and fill in these gaps faster, but they look lost when they were filling down here. The defensive line were getting moved out of their out of their lanes, which caused the secondary now they can't clean up or fill in where they're supposed to go because everything is just a blur now. All week, all summer, or however long you've been in the defense, anytime there's a breakdown in the defense, you know where to go. This is where you fit at. The nose tackle is in this A gap. The linebacker is filling in this B gap or this backside A gap. So now you got this B gap or this A gap. You know what I mean? But none of those were there, so that's why you get the long runs.
Yeah, and those long runs are just crushing because a lot of those long runs came after we put up points, and then we try to obviously get the ball back from and put up more points, and then those runs are just crushing because you got to watch a guy run 80 yards down the field and walk into the end zone. But yeah, I mean, let's look ahead to the Jets. So obviously, just had that loss to the Colts, 45-30. We got Buffalo. Oh God, we have Buffalo next week. Oh man, I'm not looking forward to that game. But then after that, we have Miami, Houston, Philadelphia, New Orleans, Miami, Jacksonville. There are some winnable games in there.
Hey, if y'all can get past Buffalo and give Philly a game, y'all may be able to win out.
I can see
Those
it.
are some very, very winnable games because this Buffalo game, depending on where it is, it could end up being a trap game. It could be. This is the time of year where trap games happen, like mid-season, headed into the third quarter. You know, midway through the third quarter of the season. This is where it happens. So I think if y'all can pull Buffalo out, y'all got a chance, man, to get some games in.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I thought the last one I thought the Bengals game they were going to take some momentum from that and build, but that didn't happen. So I don't know. I think if we beat Buffalo, which I see no chance happening, but if we do find a way to squeeze past them, like then I guess I'm with you. I think we could beat Miami. Obviously, Houston's terrible. The Eagles are the Eagles. The Jets have a shot to do something. But the biggest thing now, and we talked about this earlier in the season, but the biggest thing now for the Jets is where do you want to be? You have 2 wins. You're not making the playoffs. You're definitely not winning the Super Bowl. What should the Jets' plan for the rest of the season be?
Um, that goes back to a point I made on Twitter. Like coaches who are emotional coaches, like the coach in Detroit, you hit a crossroad. You're brought in to win games. You're going in thinking you're going to win games, but coaches know how many games they're going to win or could potentially win in the preseason. Like that's the Jets had to know they weren't going to be very good this year. But you bring a guy in and you tell him we want you to change this franchise, but now we're at a point to where we got to start looking at draft position. Um, Even though the Jets own their first round pick right in Seattle's as well. Yeah, so now we got to try to set ourselves up for the future. So, coach, we don't want you to lose games, but we won't be mad if you do. Just don't lose them bad. And ultimately, for a coach who was brought in to win games, you're going to get fired based on the fact that you're losing games. So that's when you go back and you can point to this time, and those coaches have an argument where, like, I had to lose these games, or we weren't very good, and you knew we were going to lose them. So those really don't count. But I think they got to focus on the future now, man. This year is over. Get some young guys some experience. I saw a great question on the bottom about Quinnen. I like Quinnen. I just think Quinnen has too many times in games where he just disappears. Like at the end of the last game, he appeared a couple times. Had a couple great plays in a row. He had a great, series, but it was for long periods of that game where you just didn't hear his name being called or you didn't see him making that much of an impact. He has that ability. The coaches got to keep him motivated because he comes from Alabama, right? He went to Alabama, right? How many games did he lose in college?
Not more than 4.
And you see, that's the thing with these young guys when they come in from college, they're not used to losing games. So and then you go to the teams like the Jets, Jaguars, or whatever else, and it's kind of hard to find motivation.
Yeah, and I give the Jets credit because they made some nice picks in the past few years. With Mackay, we got Quinnen, like Elijah Vera Tucker trading him to get him. Slowly but surely, Joe Douglas is building a team that can go out there and win games. So I give him credit for that. Now, slowly, extra slowly.
Okay. let's say that.
Now I want to ask you because obviously I watched the game with untrained eyes because I didn't play. But my roommate, Evan, mentioned something to me, and we kind of had a pretty long conversation about this, actually. But we have an idea that there's a new wiggle in the league. Like, these new age of players, like the Kadarius Toney, Elijah Moore, Jalen Waddle, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith. It seems like these guys are out there running with a new type of shiftiness. Is that something that you've noticed?
I wouldn't say notice. I think the league is more so embracing them more than they did in the past because there's been guys like them in the NFL in the past who are extremely fast, don't have great hands, minus Chase and a couple of the other guys, but they just weren't embraced just off the pure speed. But now you get Kansas City, got 7 of them over there. Now the entire league wants something like that now. So that's where guys in the past, if they played now, like a Darius Hayward-Bay or a Percy Harvin, who still had success, but more so on the receiving side, like they would have done really, really well today. The league is really embracing these speed guys now.
Yeah, imagine a Percy Harvin in a Cooper Kupp role or something like that. I mean, guys like that, they would have been dangerous. And like you're saying, all this ties back into the Odell situation and why it's so much crazier that he's not getting the ball. Like, you have such a talented guy in that situation. How are you not going to design him to get the ball? You see the Giants do it for Toney. You see the Jets do it for Elijah Moore. It's not hard to get a guy the ball in the open field.
Absolutely not. You can get a guy. You can get anybody open. Now,
completing the play and getting past the defender is another thing. But getting the guy the ball in the open field is not that hard to do.
No, not at all. And they weren't doing it.
Yeah, no. And there's really no excuse to not be doing it when you're paying a guy that much money.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to get to, Snacks, here? Anything we missed, you think?
Gotta give my boy Dak some love, man. Comeback player of the year. I think Dak is gonna win comeback player of the year. He's playing really well, has his team in great position. You saw their backup quarterback go out and have a great game, but it's kind of like what you see with the Jets. Your backup quarterback can have a great game, but that's your first round pick, and this is your franchise player. So, kind of go back to where you were when they get back. You know what I mean? Parsons, defensive rookie of the year. He's having a great year. Shout out to him. He's doing a lot of things in that defense for that team. What's his name in Pittsburgh? The running back? Najee's having a decent year. He's had one great game and a couple, decent games, so they're kind of putting him up there.
He's the other guy who offensive rookie of the year talks. Obviously, Jamar Chase running away with it, but the work that Najee's getting as the workhorse back there, I mean, he's going to turn into a little Derrick Henry within 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no, for sure.
They feed him.
Coach of the year, Cliff Kingsbury, is doing a great job. Green Bay's coach deserves some kudos for that as well. But I think more so Cliff Kingsbury's assistants, they're doing a great job. They've turned that team around slowly but surely. And Sean Payton has his team playing good as well. Yeah, we give Sean Payton some credit.
Give Sean Payton some love. First real year without Drew Brees, still showing he can win some games in the NFL. Yeah. And I think, honestly, that'd be a pretty interesting conversation between the two because the Cardinals have so much talent surrounded with that team. Not that the Saints don't, but obviously Cliff's able to get that out of them. But Sean Payton, I mean, this is his first year in a long time. Like, it's almost like the first year after Belichick having Brady. Like, and Sean Payton showing that he can still do it without the guy who he relied on for so long. So I think he'd probably be my pick to win Coach of the Year.
Man, they got a system in place over there already. And so it's no matter who was playing quarterback, they just need a decent quarterback, which brings me back to a point I made the last show. It doesn't take much to get a franchise over the hump. You just got to have a pretty decent quarterback and a really good defense. That's it. A quarterback who can make all the throws, doesn't have to make them perfect, but somebody you can kind of just let go and let play ball, kind of like a Jameis Winston and a Ryan Fitzpatrick, that type of role. Like they're not. Jameis is a good quarterback. Let me not say that, but a guy who can get you by while your defense carries you, like that alone can get the Jets over the hump. But they just keep going young at quarterback and hoping for the success that they see Kansas City and a couple other teams with are Baltimore. And it's just not working out for them. Who's ever scouting these quarterbacks, they just don't end up liking them.
Last thing before we go here. Giants Raiders this Sunday, 1 p.m. Who you like in that game?
That's a tough one, man, because I think this game gonna mean a lot to Jonathan Hankins, former Giants defensive tackle. So he's gonna get the guys on the defensive line up to play really well. In the end, I just think the Raiders just have too much firepower. But it could be a great matchup if the Giants can get their secondary to do what they were brought in to do, because they're gonna have trouble moving the ball against the Giants. The Giants defense is pretty good, despite what you saw last week. I'm gonna have to go. Damn, man, you killing me. They're gonna kill me. I'm gonna go Raiders on that one. I'm gonna have to go Raiders. I love you, Giants, but I gotta go Raiders on that.
Yeah, I'm citing all the same reasons. I mean, Giants obviously in a place to win games most weeks, even though they're only 2-6.
Yeah.
So I definitely think it'll be competitive. And the Raiders dealing with all the emotional stuff with the Henry Ruggs, which we didn't even get into, and I'm kind of glad we didn't because that's such a terrible story and just prayers to all involved. But I mean, the Raiders are really in a strange situation right now. 5-2, like had every single thing going right for them about 3 weeks ago, and then everything just all of a sudden out of nowhere just spiraled down from Gruden to Ruggs to their cornerback now who's facing charges on a similar driving incident. I mean, everything's gone down for them. That being said, the Giants are the Giants, so I got the Raiders.
Hey, hold on, man. Watch your mouth now. The Giants, not the Jets. I love the Jets too, but the Giants are not the Jets.
No,
they're
not.
Are the Giants.
They're not.
Man, they've had more recent success than the Jets. Even though I love the Jets, man, but they've had more recent success.
They've had more recent success. They've had more past success. They've had probably more future success.
Nah, the Jets are set up to do good in the future, man. They just got to get the right pieces in place in all aspects: the quarterback position, head coach, general manager. Once they do that, because this is not all on the players. This is a lot on the front office. What's going on with the Jets? Because they brought a lot of these guys in.
Yep. No, that's awesome. You've been listening to Snacks and Sonny here on uSTADIUM.
Mm-hmm.
So, you playing some COD later? What are you doing on a Saturday night?
Man, listen, I play a little bit of Grand Theft Auto, the RP service.
Okay.
I run a gang in there too, man. So I think I'm a stream there, let y'all see how I do. I play in a couple different cities on there. There's a pretty good server called Dead Homies New York. That guy, that whole crew is pretty good guys. I got to get them on here, man, and let them tell the world about what they're doing, because they have the New York City. Like, it's crazy. Like, the actual New York map is on there, and those are some pretty good guys. And I also play a little bit of Thug Life, man. So, these are some weird names. And imagine Snacks in here role playing while my kids in the background screaming. But, that and a little bit of Call of Duty. That's all I got, man. And 2K. I play 2K too.
All right. Well, we might have to get some running in the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. Once again, this is Snacks and Sonny on uSTADIUM. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a great football weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Don't go too crazy. And then Sonny Carton with Snacks. Thank you for listening.